We're back for a third episode of a conversation about COVID with our panel of YPG senior leaders. YPG Commander Colonel Ross Poppenberger, Command Sergeant Major Jamathon Nelson, YPG Technical Director Larry Bracamonte, and YPG Deputy Garrison Manager Ron James. Colonel Poppenberger, let me start with you.
Hi, this is our third video that we're shooting here, and going to do another town hall session. We've taken questions from the workforce and tried our best to summarize those questions and give good, solid answers. What I want to open up with saying is we are in an extremely fluid and dynamic environment right now. Nobody has ever dealt with COVID-19. None of us, no leaders have ever dealt with a pandemic like this, and there hasn't been one in years and years. Since the early 1900s that we've seen. And so what I ask, given those current constraints, is that we follow the policies and procedures that are coming out. Things are coming at us fast. We're changing policies on post as it relates to gate access and post access and protective equipment to wear. What I ask is that everybody show some extreme patience and forgiveness for our security guards on the gate. They're our first line of defense right now. Protecting the post and protecting the people that work here, as well as we have that, as I said in the last video, a social responsibility and now even a civic duty and responsibility and obligation to follow the rules and regulations laid out by our government leaders, and we'll get through this together.
Colonel Poppenberger, as you know, Dr. Esper on Sunday put out new guidance about wearing face coverings or masks, things of that nature, while on DoD property. Can you tell us how YPG is implementing that?
Yeah, so over the weekend, Dr. Esper put that memo out, and essentially the memo states that we'll have everybody that will be within work proximity of 6 feet of one another will be required to wear a mask. Or they didn't specifically outline mask, but some sort of face covering. There's various ways that we can do that, everything from fastening a t-shirt around you to a homemade expedient type mask. But we will all exercise that specifically on anybody that's doing any work within 6 feet of each other. Our mechanics are in that environment. If we're in meetings closer than 6 feet, we will put them on. But that's why we're pushing out a lot of telework and other meetings. If you're on a gun crew down on a line and you're in and out of vehicles together in close proximity, you'll wear masks. The other thing that many don't think about is driving in a vehicle. I've restricted access to post if all participants in the vehicle are not wearing the mask, with the exception of household family members. So if there's more than one person in a vehicle that's not household family members, you'll be required to wear a mask for post access. So some clarification on that. If you go pick a child friend up in town and bring it out to YPG, all will be required to wear a mask. But that also violates the stay-at-home policy. So there's some challenges there that we're still sorting through. Bottom line is non-family members within 6 feet proximity will wear a mask. Additionally, we've required masks if you enter the commissary or the PX, and you'll be required to wear some sort of face covering. We've also put out a video that we're going to attach to this by our safety office, showing proper wear and donning of various types of masks, to include homemade masks.
Mr. Bracamonte, let me turn to you. People still have questions about contractor hours, particularly those of contractors who are directly supporting tests versus those who charge their hours to overhead. Are we cutting hours for contractors?
First of all, the government is not cutting hours. This was solely a contractor management decision, and it is based on the workload, which we expect to be decreased by 40% this month. This is primarily as a result of our government partners and some of our contractor representatives being unable to travel to YPG because of flight restrictions. On the positive side, we have been able to catch up on some testing that had been previously postponed as a result of Army modernization priorities. So that is the good news. Furthermore, we continue to work with our customers with regards to looking at testing that we can execute without them necessarily being present. Some of the things that we're doing is we've been able to streamline data products back to their home stations so that they don't have to physically be here. So we've done that on a couple of tests, and it seems to be positive at the moment. So we will continue to do that so that we can increase our workload during this COVID virus.
Colonel Poppenberger, a minute ago you referenced Governor Ducey's travel restriction order. There's folks in the YPG workforce who have concerns that there's people that are violating the stay-at-home order, violating social distance guidelines that the governor's put out. If they see something like that, is there something the YPG leadership can do about it?
Well, currently I have the authority, and I can and I have restricted military from traveling outside the local area. And so that's already said and done. I encourage our DA civilians to do the same thing, to not travel outside the local areas. We all have a social responsibility, and right now in Arizona, we also have a civic responsibility. Frankly, it's the law. We've got a stay-at-home order. Now, there are some things that were identified in Governor Ducey's address. Some outside activities, running, exercise, biking, and even golf was listed as something that's an acceptable practice. But at the end of the day, all are required to stay home, social distance, stay away. We have a social and now a civic responsibility to do that. There are some constraints that we can impose on our DA civilians. If I got some guidance from our legal team today, and if somebody conducts an egregious offense to that, we can pursue it as a workforce endangerment, and we can follow up with some disciplinary action even to our civilians, our DA civilians. So this is a serious measure, and we're taking it serious.
Colonel Poppenberger, I've asked you this question before, but folks need reassurance. Do you think YPG is going to be shut down for a time?
Look, the first thing that we want to do is we want to make sure our workforce is safeguarded and protected. That's what we're doing. That's why we're taking all these measures. That's why we're following the civil responsibilities, the law that was passed with our stay-at-home. But at this point, we do not have any plans to shut down YPG. We're a critical mission element. We're a direct support unit to the Vice Chief of Staff of the Army, and we've been deemed as a mission set that's going to remain open to work on our modernization priorities across the government. So that being said, again, I can't emphasize enough that all members, all teammates on YPG and their families take these constraints seriously and understand what you're required. Understand that, hey, we're doing some limited access on post, and we're doing some things as a measure to safeguard the workforce, safeguard the community, so that we can remain open and serve our nation as we need.
Mr. James, if a confirmed COVID-19 case occurred at YPG, what would the procedure be? What would that look like? And would it be different for a member of the YPG family that, say, has been teleworking this whole time versus someone who's still reporting to work as usual?
It would be different, and I'll kind of outline what would happen on YPG first and then go to the telework scenario second. We will put out a policy letter this week that explains this in detail, but in general, if someone is positive on YPG, the first thing we want you to do is report it. Let your supervisor know. Have one of your family members let your supervisor know so that we get ahead of that, because the follow-on process is the medical community notifies the county sends out a team, they call them trace teams, and they do this for every positive case in Yuma County, not just here, and they find out who the person's been in contact with, what building they were in, and then that generates a series of events to make sure that some people are put into quarantine. They would determine that. What areas need to be cleaned, they would determine that as well. And so likewise with a telework situation where you're in your home, the same trace team would be initiated. So it's very similar, and hopefully the residents of that home are cleaning in conjunction with the CDC standards that are published online. So that's the basics of the process. We want to know as soon as possible, and we want to get cleaning initiated as soon as possible so that we can mitigate it to the best of our ability.
Mr. Bracamonte, what are the leave policies for someone who's been told to stay home by a doctor but not diagnosed with COVID-19? Would that person have to take sick leave as usual?
Yes, the answer is that the person would take sick leave. The bottom line here is that employees who are sick or test positive for COVID-19 are placed on sick leave if they are symptomatic or cannot telework. All right, so one of the things that we're going to be doing is we're going to be posting a decision matrix for leave on the SharePoint so that folks can take a look at it. This is something that has been distributed to your supervisors to determine, what type of leave would be taken under different type of circumstances where you're asymptomatic or symptomatic.
Sergeant Major Nelson, we've increased hygiene protocols significantly since this crisis began. But once it's all over, is there going to be one final deep cleaning of everything and then life will return to normal?
So we've already started that process, and you can't wait till the end to begin cleaning. So what we've done is, in just about every section or office, there is a roster, and we are cleaning ourselves. So we're not bringing people in to clean, we're distributing supplies, and those in the office are rotating as far as cleaning. But when you use the term cleaning, you got to be really careful, because there's cleaning, there's disinfecting, and there's sanitizing. So cleaning removes dirt from a surface, disinfectant kills germs. So what we're going to do is what we do is we disinfect and then we remove by cleaning. What I would caution people on when it comes to cleaning and disinfecting is read the instructions on the back of the cleaning product, all right, and use them in accordance with the manufacturer's outlines. A lot of times people don't understand, a lot of times to kill germs, that spray must remain on an item for 3 to 5 minutes, all right, and then it'll kill it. The best thing you can use is Clorox wipes. Clorox wipes, you can't use it on your computers and stuff like that, but it will disinfect and clean in a wipe. So we're way ahead of this. We'll continue to clean as we go through it. We're cross-leveling supplies throughout YPG to include hand sanitizers. We're making masks. It's also time to get creative. All right, if you've got things at home, paper towels and water and bleach mixed together, we'll make the Clorox wipes.
And Sergeant Major, Colonel Poppenberger touched on this earlier, but we've been hearing a lot. Folks are frustrated by last-minute changes to things like access to certain access control points in YPG and not being notified about it in advance. Why is that sort of thing happening right now?
Well, they're as frustrated as we are, because most of these, like the Colonel touched on, are coming from DOD. I mean, the Secretary of Defense is issuing a lot of these, and it affects all military installations. So as things change over the weekends, there's not always time. But like the Colonel said, he used the gate as our first line defense. I would take it one step further than that and say our population is our first line of defense. The gate is the second, is an actual physical barrier where we can enforce standards, and then third is what you do on post. So it's a layered defense, but we need everybody's help when it comes to ensuring that we keep the community safe. So ways we've done that and things that have changed. So the back gate of Laguna Army Airfield, that can't be manned. We don't have the people, so that gate is closed. We cannot ask the medical questions, and so we can't have people going in and out of that gate. So we close that. The second one is, I'm sure you've seen at many of the gates, we've changed, how we conduct, the questions, and the guards are now behind that physical barrier, which works. We talked about the mask wearing in the vehicles. Now, don't be surprised if you're asked to remove your mask or pull your mask down so the guards can identify you when you come through. The Trusted Traveler program, all right, we kept that as long as possible. Unfortunately, that was abused, and we had to get rid of it immediately. So a lot of the changes are in reaction to, things that are happening. If you try to bring people on post from out of the country under the Trusted Traveler program, we're going to get rid of the Trusted Traveler program because our number one priority is the population on post and to keep them safe. And we ask the community to help us with that be patient, things changed in an email. So we get an email, things change, and it says this will be implemented immediately. Now, the face coverings, I want to be very careful about the masks, all right? We weren't told to issue masks. We were told to use face coverings. Only medical personnel will get the N95, and it goes, priorities. That came out and said it will be implemented immediately. There's some grace period in that, and Colonel Poppenberger said, let's do a trial run, and then we'll implement it starting Wednesday. You'll wear these masks on post unless you're in the car with a family member or inside your residence. This is laid out in Dr. Esper's message to DOD. Commissaries, PX, anywhere where you can social gather. So if you go in to pick up your food and you cannot maintain 6 feet. That's why we ask that the stay at home is honestly what it means. You're allowed to go out in town and get stuff, but this isn't the time to be bringing a bunch of people on. Our police and guards are really struggling when a car pulls up and there's 8 kids in the car and you only have 4 kids. That's why if they're not family members, they must wear a mask. It's not the time to be bringing a bunch of people on post and have social gatherings on post.
Mr. James, as you know, we solicit members of the YPG family for the questions that we ask in these videos. What about folks who don't feel comfortable giving their name when they're asking a question? They want to ask a question anonymously. What's the best way for them to go about that? I mean, something like an ICE comment, is that an appropriate forum?
It is. So as the Sergeant Major indicated, we're kind of adjusting on the fly, and this is one of those examples. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up ICE so that you can submit questions anonymously, and I'll tell you how that works here in a second. But I'll start out by saying we prefer that you don't, just because we may have follow-up questions. We may not know exactly what you mean when you're saying this, and so we would rather have them not be anonymous, but we want to give you that option. So if you go into ICE, there's a link on our SharePoint page. We'll also post that on Facebook. And when you get into ICE, you choose Office of the Garrison Manager. All the radio buttons are set to NA as a default. Just leave them NA and just go down to the comment box at the bottom and fill in your questions and we'll get it. There's below the comment box, there's an option for your identifying information if you choose. But there's no way we will know who put that comment in there if you don't fill out that information. So it's completely anonymous, and we'll make those links available to you so that you can make comments to this forum, and they would be totally anonymous.
Sergeant Major, for folks that live on post, let's say that one of the people in the vehicle feels certain symptoms of COVID-19, but they're afraid to answer honestly because they think the gate guards won't let them on post to go back to their residence. Would that happen if they were honest?
So honestly, Mark, that is a question that probably gets asked the most, is I live on post. If I answer these questions and you say you're going to turn me around, where do I go? You're going to go home. That is you live on post. What we have to remember is we're communicating to a broad audience, all right? We have residents, we have military personnel, we have contractors, we have DA civilians. So when you see information, it doesn't necessarily apply to you. So I'd be cautious on a lot of times when you get your information. But I will make this very clear. If you live on post, all right, you will return to your residence and then you will contact your medical provider on post. No one's going to be turned away from their home, but that's probably the biggest question that gets submitted or ICE comment is, I don't want to answer the question because then I can't go home. You will go home. You live here. And that's who we're trying to protect, are those that live here.
We're in our 4th week of this national COVID-19 crisis. A lot of YPG personnel have been teleworking for most or all of the duration of this. They're probably feeling cabin fever and wanting to get back to normal. Some of them might even have travel plans that they made many months ago and they're looking forward to traveling again. Is now the right time to be thinking about getting away from social distancing guidelines and things of that nature?
Well, Mark, first and foremost is we need to stay the course right now. The Governor Ducey's issued the stay-at-home policy. That's civic responsibility right there. Most of our neighboring states, all of our neighboring states have done the same thing. Currently, cruise ships are all shut down right now. I think one of the questions was specifically about, hey, I have a ticket for a cruise to go on, and the bottom line is, the answer to that is no right now. If you've got tickets for some event, all I can say is follow up with those various organizations that you got those tickets from. I believe, well, you need to follow up and look at their policies and practices. But we will not be participating in those things. It's highly encouraged to not. Military definitely will not. And so one of the things to look at is here in Yuma, currently there's 16 positive cases in Yuma County. We are doing a fantastic job here in Yuma, and I really have to applaud the Yuma leadership for what they've done and leaned forward and got the word out and done the things that they've done. Likewise, here on YPG, we have some outstanding track record right now, to say the least. And so we anticipate staying the course on that. So what that means is we're going to stay the course with staying socially distanced. My medical team tells me yesterday that they expect the peak to hit here in Yuma in another week or so by the end of the month of April. And so there's more to come. So if you're getting cabin fever now, figure out ways to deal with the cabin fever. Understand how to deal with that, and just doing one quick run to Walmart and then another quick run to any other shopping center is probably a bad idea at this point. Figure out a way to deal with it and stay at home. There's a lot of things out there. The CDC has published some information on stress and how to deal. This is a new kind of stress that we're not dealing with. So I encourage all of you to go out to the CDC website and take a look at some of those techniques to deal with this. And also for our government families and civilians, we've got the EAP program. There's online and telephonic stress counselors to deal with if you feel some stresses and some concerns in dealing with this. But specifically to answer the question is no, now is not the time to get cabin fever and need to get out. You can get out and go for a walk, go for a run. Right now, as it stands, it was still listed as golf is an acceptable activity as long as you maintain social distancing. So there's various ways to get out and deal with that you don't go around large public areas. Look, in closing, I think that's my last question here. In closing, what I want to focus on is here at YPG, we've got the most outstanding workforce. The leaders here are dedicated to providing a safe and healthy work environment given the current constraints that we have. We all need to continue to find patience. We need to look at and figure out ways to deal with the stress and know that your buddy on your left and your right may be having some challenges that they're not really talking about. So make sure you ask those folks, what's going on. Help one another out. This is the time to really do it. In the Army, we say, hey, I'm helping my battle buddy out. Well, find your battle buddy and help them out. Something I want to share also with the folks out there is every single morning I've been having all the senior leaders on YPG in a video telecon, or not a video, just a regular teleconference. We talk about these issues. So and today, based on some of these questions that came out, I thought, well, hey, maybe some of this information's not getting passed out. They assure me it is, and they're following up with their subordinate leaders. And so if you feel like you're uninformed, ask your supervisor, and if that supervisor feels uninformed, ask the next level supervisor. And I want to reiterate, as Colonel Johnson had put out in her letter to the force here earlier this week, I have a virtual open door policy, and all of us leaders do as well. And so feel free to contact us, and we're happy to kind of work through this. Hey, look, again, YPG has outstanding results on this. It's a direct impact of you all out there adhering to your social responsibility to do your part in doing this. And it's the leadership taking a lot of actions, sometimes quick and uncomfortable actions, but we're going to continue on to do the right thing for the force and find ways to protect the force through this demanding time. Thanks for listening, and again, we all have an open door policy, virtually or otherwise, but start up through your chain of command, and I know the information is getting out there, and we'll continue to push it out daily. Thank you.